Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for joining. We'll wait maybe 60 seconds to make sure that the participants can all join, and we will start very shortly. And I can tell you while we are waiting that I'm personally very grateful and honored to have all these wonderful members on the panel today. I'm really looking forward to the discussion. And please also feel free if you have questions. There will be a question session, as you know, at the end. And I'm sure that you'll have some very interesting questions for the panel. So don't hesitate to do that. I believe that the way to do this is through the chat function. So we will be taking care of that, making sure that there is time at the end for your important questions. Wonderful. Well, to be mindful of time and of all the great panels that we have today for this FinTech conference, I will begin. My name is Naim Antaki. I am a partner at Gowling WLG. We are an international law firm. I'm personally based in Montreal, Canada. I am the co-head of our national AI group, and I will be acting as the moderator here. So I will have the easy role on this panel. The title is quite an interesting title. What is the role of AI in overhauling banking infrastructure? And then what are the key ingredients in enabling this transformation? Is it technology? Is it culture? Or is it both? We have a great panel with us today. And I think to keep this very conversational, I will ask each person maybe to quickly introduce themselves, and we will then move on to the questions for this panel. So maybe Roman, if you would like to begin.
Yeah, no, thanks so much, and very much looking forward to the panel. I'm Roman Regelman. I represent Bank of New York Mellon. Have two roles. I lead digital across the enterprise. I also lead asset servicing, which is our largest business. And digital for us, obviously many things, is kind of changing the way we do business, is embracing data, but in a very significant way is embracing AI. And I was absolutely looking forward to tell you all kind of how we're doing that across the enterprise, together with our clients.
Thank you so much, Roman. Chris, would you like to continue?
Sure. So I'm Chris Ward. I'm with PNC. I'm in the wholesale side of the business, driving digital data and innovation, both for treasury management and other parts of the organization, and glad to be here today. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Chris. Ren, would you like to go with introductions?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. My name is Zhang. I'm with BMO Financial. I'm the chief data scientist. So I was with BMO since almost 2 years now. Since I joined, we have been in a journey use AI to transform the organization. So my team is a central function. We are sitting in the enterprise. We work with all of the business units ranging from retail, business banking, commercial, and wealth management. So since we have been engaging on including use machine learning to take care of all the business cases and also include automation, use robotics, we're also building AI products to help scale. And lastly, very importantly, we are focusing on the trustworthy AI to make sure we use AI in a very responsible and ethical way. So look forward to the panel.
Thank you very much, Ren. And I'm looking forward to exploring these issues with you and the group for sure. Michael, would you like to go next?
Yes, Naim. Good morning, everybody. I'm Michael Ruttledge. I'm the CIO for Citizens Bank. I head up our technology group. Actually, it's great to see you, Ren. Ren and I used to partner together at American Express. Ren was my business partner, and a very demanding one, I must say, but a great partner. So at Citizens, we're on a modernization journey. We're modernizing our technologies through our next generation technology program and our data platform. So looking forward to the panel discussion and telling you a bit more about that.
Thank you so much, Michael. And last but not least, Rajesh.
Thank you, Naim. I lead data science for Bank of America Securities. So in this role, we are employing statistical techniques to improve market making for our traders. We are creating sales targeting tools and differentiated content for our clients and salespeople. And we are also developing data-driven data analytics to help our managers make data-driven decisions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rajesh. So to begin the panel, what I would suggest is that we start with setting the stage by better understanding the current landscape with respect to AI in banking institutions. And I would ask each of the panelists to maybe provide some concrete examples of how AI is currently being used, and to better, let's say, go from this very general buzzword-worthy word, which is AI, and make it real, if I may. So Rajesh, maybe you'd like to begin?
Yes, definitely. So I can give you a couple of examples of AI which illustrate the diversity of applications that happens. The putative use of machine learning lies inside our trading business for us. In this case, all that we are saying is I need to predict prices or I need to predict volatilities. Instead of predicting them using a linear technique like linear regression, I need a statistical technique that accounts for data outliers, accounts for correlations, accounts for regime changes, and all these nonlinear factors have come in. When we look at our clients, we see a few broad trends. We see the rise of risk premia investing, the rise of electronic trading, the merging of fundamental and quantitative investment styles, the use of new and differentiated kinds of data, and the use of advanced analytics. All of these things have come onto our side as well. So where we have done is we have found that we are able to use machine learning to help our traders position themselves better across equities, FX, credit, mortgages, and commodities. The usage itself differs. In credit, for example, we have found more use combining pre-trade data with the dealer inventory, street file information, using a two-stage statistical learning approach. If you're looking at electronic trading in the higher frequency domain, you can use more advanced techniques of deep learning, and that are also found used. Another interesting application that we find is in the investment banking space. It's been something that has been a surprise to me. I would not have guessed it 3 years back. It turns out that one is able to predict what companies get acquired around 12 months in advance by combining macroeconomic data, idiosyncratic factors, technical factors, even market variables. We are able to say with high probability, this company might get acquired for these reasons, and it enables our bankers to target these companies better. We are able to do something similar on the capital market side as well, where you see when an IPO happens or a secondary offering happens, we're able to identify the clients by looking at their past deals. We're also able to understand, saying if this much discount, this is the dollar demand that I can expect. That kind of trade-off can also be made. In all of these, what we have found is we always had statistical techniques that were being used. Now we are able to add on certain techniques drawn from classical machine learning or statistical learning. And in certain select cases, we're able to employ deep learning. All of these projects have been in production. We have a robust governance system over it that ensures that only the right data is used. Ren mentioned the ethical use of data. That's extremely important for all banking institutions. So we try to use the simplest model that we can do, and we are able to implement it with robust safeguards.
Thank you so much, Rajesh. Ren, would you like to go next in terms of specific AI projects that you may have at BMO Financial?
Sure, absolutely. First, Mike, thanks for the kind words. Good to be in the panel with you as well. If I'm thinking about our use cases, I'll use several examples. Actually, because we're in the center, actually we have a very diverse use case. The first example we have is with a digital team, right? How do we personalize a customer experience? So there we actually use deep learning to find out who are likely to use certain product, maybe in financial difficulty, and potentially cross-sell them the right product and help them in this kind of COVID difficulties as well. We also work with financial crime unit. There on the cyber side, how do we identify those kind of anomaly in the signal, potentially know there's a cyber attack, and then the investigation team can look into it to see what they can do. We work with the business banking side on the pricing. How do we make sure that we have the right price for both lending and deposit? And very importantly, present that tool with a banker, help them with the negotiation process. We use natural language processing. There actually use cases are multiple. For instance, on the marketing side, they use those methodology to analyze the customer survey to see how's the outcome of that. And on the investment banking side, they use that to provide the first read to the analyst when it comes to financial statement analyzing. So those are some of the examples. I would say that it depends on the organization. BMO is a big company. So some organization is more mature than the use case we're talking about. For instance, we even have deep learning in production live, right? That's with the digital side. And some other organization, they probably would want to have more human in the loop and doing the POC, understand the outcome before it goes to production. So maturity vary, but I think from our team-wise, we are ready to deploy any type of use case as needed with the right methodology.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ren. Roman, would you like to go next, maybe with specific AI projects?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are 237 years old company, and obviously we support very significant part of world's market infrastructure, capital market infrastructure. We work with a lot of institutions across the whole world, including all the institutions represented in this conference. So for us, innovation is sort of integral to what we do, even though we are that old. And AI is a very big part of that. As a head of digital, I established a core competency for digital, and AI is absolutely one of them. What's important for us, because our clients are large institutions, right? And client service of our business is extremely important. It's really AI going together, what I call HI, kind of human intelligence. Many of our things, so think of onboarding of a large institution, one of the ones represented in this panel. I mean, it's a very complex process. And the elements of that are, very easily lend themselves to kind of using AI, versus there are parts of that that are not. And we really want to make sure that kind of our employees really focus on these kind of value add client service type activities. And when AI kind of pre-populate kind of what we can. Well, think about we get millions of inquiries from our clients a year, literally millions. And quite often, this is inquiries on inquiries. Quite often, this is just a simple question, but at the same time, often it's something very complicated and cannot get answered right away. So we are deploying an AI to parse these emails to decide, what actually is a brand new inquiry and needs to go to human. What's a brand new inquiry and actually can be answered simply. And quite often, what's an inquiry on an inquiry, right? You sent me something yesterday, then you're following up today. Is that a distinctly different inquiry? So AI can be used in kind of for us for things like that. At the same time, we're using AI to do forecasting. One of the applications that we got an award for is we're predicting trade fairs. As everyone understands, some percent of trades fail, and it often happens that that failed. So what do we do? But we're actually deploying AI to predict what trades are likely to fail, and these trades will kind of get kind of more of a kind of human interaction or potentially extra attention care.
Great. Thank you very much, Roman. Chris, would you like to go next?
Sure, thanks. When I think about AI, I think there's a lot of different flavors of AI. So it goes all the way from just robotics all the way to the cognitive side. And so we've been deploying AI across the spectrum. If you think of just in this simplistic robotics and taking off some of the things Ren was talking about earlier, we deployed robotics in the fraud space to, once fraud's been detected, to actually speed the execution of the return of the item or crediting back to the customer much more quicker, creating a much more richer experience for the consumer because they've been able to get their money faster, or we've been able to dampen down exposure on the fraud because we're able to get the item returned faster. And then if you, similar to what Roman is talking about, if you look at from a forecasting perspective, right, and we're all living this today in the interest rate environment, you see the spike in mortgage applications. Well, if there's a mortgage application, there's going to be a wire probably in 60 days to close that that mortgage transaction, or a set of wires, right? So if you're the typical wire product manager, you're not able to sift through all the economic data that's going to drive underlying volumes in your business with accuracy. You can use that type of information. And then all the way at the other end of the spectrum is an initiative around that we call Sherlock, which is really going through and understanding how the customer is consuming our products and recommending, not the, just the simple, hey, customer A bought this, so customer B should buy this as well. But what are great ideas that the the relationship managers, our sales officers and treasury management can go out and talk very proactively with customers on recommended solutions for that customer. So really wide spectrum of deployment from robotics to the cognitive at our firm, and great stuff happening.
Many thanks, Chris. Michael, with respect to Citizens Bank, what type of specific AI projects are ongoing, or how do you see it within your bank?
Yeah, I think similar to some of the examples that Chris and Ren shared, we're very focused on improving customer experience. So, we've partnered with different fintechs to really make sure we're really personalizing offers, really making sure we're teeing up the right cross-sell opportunities. And AI really offers some great opportunities there. We're also trying to improve the customer experience, making it more frictionless for people to do business with us. So similar to Ren's example, using natural language, using automated reading to basically, automate some of the paper processes that we have today and make it more easier for our customers to do business with us, say in our acquisitions process, as an example. But to give a different example, looking inside technology group, we're also using AI to prevent outages. So we're looking at our logs, we're getting information about, what type of incidents or what type of problems might lead to an outage, and we're being able to predict outages and prevent them before they've actually happened. So that's another slightly different use case from some of the ones we talked about so far.
Very interesting. Thank you so much, Michael. And so, based on what I'm hearing, definitely, while it is a cutting edge technology, AI is being used. It is in deployment. It is not just limited to specific aspects of, specific business units of a bank or specific use cases, but it really is being used throughout. And so I think this is why we can talk about the role of AI in a real overhaul of banking infrastructure. Now, how do we make that work, right? And the great experience on this panel, I think, will be wonderful to hear more on this, whether it's on technology or culture. And so for my next question, I will begin maybe with Roman, if it's okay. Obviously, you talked about the concept of the digital transformation and the journey that this entails. And if you could speak a bit about that, and it also in particular about how to, get the buy-in, if I will, from the board of directors that has to deal with, there's a corporate governance issues that are quite important, and dealing with the executive team, because this is not just a project, in a basement somewhere. It needs to involve a lot of different people with a lot of different skill sets.
And Naim, I'll start with your last sentence. I think it's critical. Digital and AI, of course, is not a project in a basement. It's not a program. It's not, in my belief, that you can fund on a standalone basis. That's why I lead, our largest business, and I lead digital, because the business is increasingly digital, and digital is the business. I think the days when somebody put digital, to your point, in the basement or in some nice loft, or just say that we have innovation center in the Silicon Valley, great things happen there, but back in most of our banks on the East Coast, back on the East, things stayed the same way. But then I think these days are gone. I mean, I used to describe this, drones are flying, press releases are flying, and nothing is happening. And that is absolutely not, the approach that we're pursuing. We're really embedding digital across the whole company. The way we think of that, it's in 3 horizons. There is a horizon 1, which is basically, and AI critically plays a role in all of that. So horizon 1 is digitization of what we do. So this is, getting rid of paper, getting rid of manual processes, reconciliations, unnecessary handoffs, and obviously there is a lot of AI kind of happening in all of that. The horizon 2 is rethinking the way we work with clients end to end. I mean, often financial institutions, sell products. We have this product, we have that product. Whether you're on the institutional side or on the retail side, like some of my colleagues, at the end of the day, we all have products. But clients want outcomes. And really rethink an end-to-end client journey. That's our horizon 2. And the horizon 3 are creating new businesses. I mean, we're 237 years old. We've been creating businesses for, duration of our history. And creating digital businesses that's what's happening today. And AI is taking, is playing a very significant role in those businesses, because quite often they become a very data business. So that's just a philosophy of kind of our digital transformation, but it's embedded in every single business. We, and I really feel it as a feature, do not have like a dedicated, digital fund, because I really believe that the entirety of the spend of the company needs to become digital. Each business unit needs to think about their strategy, their product strategy, their client strategy as a digital strategy. I was a consultant at some point, and people would come and say, can you help us think about the internet strategy? That was 20 years ago. I mean, right now it would be completely laughable to tell somebody what's your internet strategy. And that's sort of my view on digital and my view on AI. I mean, there is no digital strategy, there is no AI strategy. It's being embedded into everything that we do. And then you ask me a question of kind of how to sell that to the boards, to executive stakeholders. I think that's the way you do it. If you say, what's ROI on AI project? Yeah, I mean, some AI projects have great ROI, of course. And we have many of those, and I'm sure my colleagues here have them as well. But it's just a fundamentally different way to conduct business, right? Ability to connect data from multiple sources, our data, the vendor's data, client's data, third-party data, unstructured data, and can do this thing in AI. The ability to create much more valuable jobs for our employees, so the more of our routine things do not need to be done. The ability to generate the insights for our sales force, for our service folks, for the clients. That's all embedded into each business. So we don't have, being my Mellon Digital, right? This is just a standalone division kind of driving the revenue. It's really is being embedded now into our DNA, which is a big cultural transformation, because it's not only what, it's also a how. And how it really requires, really embracing the data culture, embracing thinking and end to end, and frankly, agile's way of working, right? This is where your product organization, your client organization, technology, and operations really need to work together in a very different way, in a cross-siloed way. So I think the AI will be very successful when it just becomes, the everyday part of our toolkit. I mean, and this is not, we don't need AI specialists. We do, and we need many more of them. But, they're not somewhere separate. They're really fundamentally embedded in every part of the company. They're part of technology, they're part of the business, they're part of the client-facing teams.
Thank you so much, Roman. And maybe as a quick follow-up question to you, but also to the rest of the group on this, if you could take us back to maybe the beginning of an AI project, right? And you walk into the boardroom, or you're with your senior executive team, and you have to present this AI project to them. What would be the types of questions or challenges that you would hear about from a general corporate governance standpoint, and having a bank change its ways in such a fundamental way?
I'll give two quick answers, and then obviously look for the other colleagues. First of all, and that's maybe controversial, I would not present it as an AI project. I would present it as an outcome project. We can, as an example, deliver improved client experience kind of through using this product, and this product has AI embedded to that. And I would really talk about that. So it's the ROI is on the project. It's not ROI on AI. AI is integral to the project. So that's point number one. The point number two, and obviously a couple of colleagues already mentioned that kind of the whole ethics around AI is critical. We really need to make sure that's taken care of. So that's why I actually embraced diversity as the differentiation in AI. The head of AI for us, it's African Americans, that he understands these issues in a very kind of first-hand way. So when we talk about AI being impartial, of course AI is impartial and data is impartial. The human are not. At the end of the day, it takes humans to influence machines, whether we call it program or we call it by any other ways. So really embedding the culture, right, of diversity, the culture of inclusion into the way we do AI is very critical. So basically the summary of this thing, make sure there is a right foundation of AI, technological, ethics and otherwise, and then present the projects as the business projects with outcomes.
Thank you so much, Roman. Well, maybe on this last point that you were mentioning, which is the concept of ethical AI. Ren, earlier in the introduction, you were talking about this concepts of trustworthy AI and ethical AI, etc. So thinking again from a team culture now standpoint, right? The team that's working for this project, what is the right approach in, I guess, going from this wonderful concept, which which everyone aspires to making it a reality?
Yeah, first, I want to quickly echo what Roman's talking about. In a sense, is a business value. I feel the key of AI to be successful is to realize AI is just a tool, like many of the tools you have, and focusing on business problem is a key. Now, to your question about ethical AI, the same thing, right? We have our eyes on the outcome and on the impact to the customer. So having that change of culture in the team is that how do we get the business partner comfortable? How do we make sure that realize this is not a black box? So involve them very early on in the process, understanding what they try to achieve, what business problem they try to solve, and what desired outcome they have. Actually, even along our process of any projects, we have many touch points with the business team, right? Starting with defining the objective and to sharing very early findings. Those kind of mutual communication help us beginning to identify some of the understanding the data, understanding the process, and identify the underlying challenges you may not even realize just directly looking at the data. And earlier when we have the problem, have the early solution, we also always kind of share back with the business, make sure that they understand why the solution is that way. We show them many use cases. Take the business banking, the pricing as one example. We actually have many of the customer, hundreds of customers, show them the result. What will be the recommendation? What historically the price has been given to that specific customer, and then compare, are they comfortable, and why we are making different thing. And sometimes actually the business, the banker will tell us something we didn't realize. They will tell us why they make a decision that way. and we realize our algorithm is incomplete, right? Some of the variable information were not including. So through those kind of mutual working process, we make sure that AI at least is responsible and ethical within our own business unit. For people who have no knowledge of AI, they understand and they can trust it, right? That's a key thing. Beyond that, of course, there's many other systematic things. We will make sure our decision is unbiased as possible, right? On many dimensions when it comes to the customer segments or their credit risk profile, so on and so forth, you name it. That part will work closely with the compliance and legal group. Make sure that we get their interpretation on the law, so we're doing things correct way. The big thing we have been teaching our team within the data science side is I realize the biggest bias is in the data. Being data scientists, lots of time people trust data too much, right? They focusing on the algorithm and their technique, and they are really proud of some of the results coming out and completely forgot about the data itself is come from history, and there's a bias built into it. So with that kind of education and keep training, so make sure that they realize this kind of interaction with a business partner, all those kind of process is so important to avoid that one day people show up on the spotlight for the wrong reason, right? In the past couple of years, we've heard so many incidents that people feel AI is making a biased decision. But the truth is not the algorithm is making the wrong decision, is people and is historical data that bias it. So realizing that and having the process in place is how we make sure that our product in the end is trustworthy. And I want to also mention, this is also important to make sure that we can scale AI. Without this kind of internal trust from your business partner, there's no way you will be able to implement that and get the tangible business outcome, no matter how good that methodology is and how great your algorithm looks. So I think that's a mindset change, a culture change. It takes time, but it's absolutely critical.
Thank you so much, Ren. Those are such important issues, and these concepts, without going into details of trustworthiness and making sure there is no bias, etc., are concepts that find themselves into regulations. And so this process is quite an important one. The question is, in practice, how do you make that work? And it's great to see. Thank you for these insights on how you do it internally at BMO. So I very much appreciate this. Maybe some of the other aspects that you touched upon, Ren, was the fact about what you were talking about, scaling AI, right? And how to scale AI. And more generally, my view is that technology is an amplifier. If you do something well, it's going to be amazing. If you make a mistake, it's going to be also quite bad, right? And so Rajesh, you were speaking a bit earlier during our panel about the concept of high frequency trading and investment banking, etc. So at Bank of America, I would be grateful to hear a bit more about that, and also on how to make sure that, understanding that you're also an adjunct professor at NYU, this relationship between research academia, or perhaps even vendors, right? Or fintech companies. How do you all work together in order to make this all work, right?
Yes, Naim. So thank you for your question. And I'll address it in general, not just about Bank of America. I'll address the general aspect of quantitative trading and investing. When we think of AI, I think of it as coming as clients getting more data smart, or we getting more analytics smart. And I can explain this. When you think of data smart, what I mean is, instead of waiting for an earnings statements, you're looking at alternative big unstructured data, triangulating them, using some insight and predicting it ahead, right? In the end, data can either give you quicker insight, or it can give you differentiated insight. And that is what is happening with new data. For example, what you could do is, exactly a nice historical anecdote. In 1950, Sam Walton, the founder of Walmart, actually sat in a helicopter, went above parking lots and counted the number of cars. Today, you don't have to do so. Today, what happens is you have a series of vendors that do it for you. Planet Labs will launch the satellites. Orbital Insight will hire PhDs to do their CNN and analyze images. A company called RS Metrics will count the number of cars. And they'll say, if you give them a name of a company like Target, they will look at every parking lot of Target. They will analyze the satellite images, count the number of cars, and give you the year-on-year trend. Right? So that is an interesting use of AI. You're analyzing images, you are using vendors, and that data comes in. And the final user, in my case, a trader, or my counterpart who is a quantitative investor on the buy side, we are being data smart. We're not necessarily being analytics smart. We are just being data smart. The same thing happens in news sentiment, right? Instead of using something as simple as bag of words, where you take words and assign them a sentiment, you have a lot more sophisticated deep learning techniques that can read text, translate between languages. That reduces the cognitive overload on us. Instead of tracking 8,000 companies myself, I know if something spikes of news on a single company. That's the story of AI getting you data smart. How does AI get you analytics smart? There we have to understand that we, in the quantitative trading space, is already quite sophisticated when machine learning started coming in, right? So the way to combine intuition with data was all the standard Bayesian techniques. There's something called Black-Litterman that we use for portfolio construction. The way for separating signal from noise, the very old techniques from electrical engineering that come from, this is like things like Kalman filter and a Markov model and the particle filters. These are very old, well-established techniques, right? And in fact, we hire from these academic departments. We hire people from statistics. We hire people from electrical engineering. We also hire people from econometrics because of the peculiar characteristics of financial time series, right? Predicting volatilities. There's something called the Box-Jenkins approach that came up in the 1970s that is still used. In this background, machine learning has now entered. Right? The primary use of machine learning continues to be in three ways for us. One, it seems to do far more efficient feature selection than the older statistical tools did. Second, it seems to account for interaction terms better than is what's called the support vector machine of 1990s. The three, what my quants used to do if-else statements. So if you think of an MBA curriculum, we teach students about decision trees. A decision tree is fit on different subset of data, calibrated to different macroeconomic regimes, can be done by something called a random forest. Again, nothing new. The paper is by Regelman in 1992. So all of these techniques have become exceptionally prominent. Where are they used? They are used primarily. So if you look at quantitative investing, people make what's called long short strategies, dollar neutral. They have to select the right stocks to buy. They have to select the buy sectors. They have to do portfolio construction. They do something called income generation, hedging. Each of these activities in quantitative investing, we have found that we are able to use machine learning to augment the old quantitative techniques that we used to do. Right? Now, the second part of the question is, how is the collaboration between academia and industry? It's less than what you would hope for. You mentioned that I teach at NYU. 3 of my colleagues also teach with me. 2 at NYU, 1 at Cornell. So we are situated in academia. But the peculiarity of quantitative investing is that it historically has been a quiet space where people do not talk about alpha generating algorithms in public. Right? So it's just the history of that space. I do think academia has been slightly diversed from corporate in this particular aspect. The academia in finance concentrates on what's called asset pricing literature, and they look at behavioral finance. This is your work from Kahneman and Tversky starting in 1970s. There's a zoo of factors that came out in 2014. It's a very old vendor literature. Their focus is slightly different, right? They are still using quasi-linear approaches. If I look at the field of AI itself as it comes from computer science, their focus is on making the best new algo that beats their state of art. It could be in images, text, graph, reinforcement learning, or AutoML. That's where the latest, if you look at, if you're a conference like ICML or NeurIPS, that there is a gap between it, right? My focus in Bank of America or my client's focus is not necessarily on getting the best algorithm, but in preventing overfitting. Having said it, there is, there does exist collaboration. We do work closely with professors, especially because the factor that I mentioned that data science involves, we draw people from finance backgrounds, from technology backgrounds, from statistics, econometrics, electrical engineering, and computer science. So we do collaborate a lot. I can't get a unicorn who has a PhD in 6 or 7 disciplines. So necessarily we go and hire people, put them in a team, and we use them for our data science purpose.
Thank you so much, Rajesh. And it's quite interesting to see, obviously, what cutting edge work that may be done. How this collaboration can continue. For the next question, what I would like to do, if it's okay, is maybe turn to Chris. Chris, just to better understand, I was reading with respect to PNC Bank that there you have a number of bots in production, and that so I just wanted maybe to hear a bit more on robotics, if it's okay with you, and also on any general thoughts that you may have on this important concept of weaving technology and culture together to make AI a real asset to your bank.
Yeah, if I could just play off of some of the comments that Roman and Ren had made earlier. If we were deploying technology for the sake of technology without driving with a business strategy to use the technology, one of our first AI projects, which were very technology oriented, failed because we didn't have a good focus on what the business outcomes needed to be. So fast forward to when we think about how we're deploying robotics today, they're all very client oriented robotic solutions. So it could be a case comes in, and instead of having an operator open up a case, the robot can open up the case, and the folks who have to do the complex research on that case can kick right into doing the research, speeding, getting an answer back to the customer, or having the robot figure out the answer to the question and getting the answer back because it's not a complex case. That's a great example where you take something that might have taken hours or days and skinning it down. And people don't think about the add-on effect of speeding that up, because how many times do you get a duplicate case inquiry because you didn't answer the question quickly the first time? So you now have double the work in your queue, and you've taken it away. Or client onboarding is another great example where you gather a bunch of data, and it takes an operator 30 minutes to set something up, and it takes the robot 20 seconds to set something up. You speed revenue, you speed the client experience because items can be set up much more faster. So we have a plethora of robotics that we've deployed today, and they're all basically client-facing oriented type items, so that we can improve the client experience and how the client is experiencing PNC. So hopefully that helps. And I will tell you, if there's a network blip and our operators and the robot stops working for a second, our operators and our folks on our teams get very frustrated because they love the robots doing what they're doing, because they can focus on more high value things. And it's a great thing from an employee satisfaction perspective, because people feel more engaged and more valued in what they're doing versus doing the redundant or manual activities.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Chris. I know that the time is advancing. So, Michael, I will put you on the spot, if it's okay, for the next question. We had one of many interesting questions being asked. And maybe if you can talk about, you touched on an important subject before, Michael, just like others did, which was the concept of, being customer centric, right? And, making this frictionless. Now, when you're working at the bank, I imagine that some of the work is done in-house, and for some other work, maybe you deal with maybe FinTech companies or different vendors. How do you make that decision, and what are the criteria that you would use in order to determine if you would like to work with, FinTech, the building or buying question, if you will, right? When would it make sense to buy or to collaborate with others on this one?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And we have really strong FinTech partnerships, probably about 25 in place across the company right now. And I think, frankly, some of the data that some of these FinTechs have, we don't have in-house. So they really have that, that's one reason we would use a FinTech. Other ones, they're frankly more sophisticated and have a lot better sort of customer experience. Some of the front ends that they've developed are really good and really sophisticated. So it's helped us certainly in our mortgage business, in our lending business. We've partnered with fintechs and they've developed the front end systems linking back to the back end systems. Some of it's time to market, right? I think all of us are all trying to move at speed. If you think back to probably everyone on this call, we all had to deliver loans during the COVID crisis, PPP loans, and we had to do that very, very rapidly, right? So as well as developing a set of our own APIs to link to the government websites, we also leverage, similar to Chris, machine learning and bots to really automate some of that processing, to take the workload away from our customer service groups, our underwriting groups, etc. So once again, we partnered with some fintechs in leveraging some off-the-shelf bots rather than developing everything from scratch. So there's having said that, there's also times where I think to be differentiated in the marketplace, you want to build in-house. And we've been moving to do, I'd say, over the last couple of years. We've hired a lot of engineering talent, and we've been building a lot of new systems in-house rather than buying packages, which has been a little bit of a pivot for us. And I think the other area we really haven't touched on today, but I think maybe it's going to be your next question is really the skills that you need to do that, both engineering skills and data skills. And I think it's an area that is so hot in the marketplace right now, both on the technology front with data engineers and on the business with decision scientists. I think getting that right is really important as well.
Thank you very much, Michael. And it's quite interesting, between the many APIs that you've been working on and working with vendors, but at the same time, that focus, which is also very important on, employees and upskilling, right, to make sure that in-house all of this works out well.
Exactly.
Look, and thank you so much. Looking at another question that we have from the audience, what I would like you, maybe each of you can take just a minute to answer this. This is a crystal ball question, if I can put it this way. And so I will give you a choice to answer one of two questions, if you don't mind. The first one, which, if you had a wish and you had only one wish to solve one pain point that you have, regarding AI in banking, what would it be? And if you don't want to answer that question, but you want to talk about key emerging developments or trends that you see as particularly important, feel free to do that too. So if it's okay, I will turn perhaps to Roman on this question on the pain point or emerging trends, looking forward.
Yeah, my emerging trend would be the world embraces that trust and innovation go together. It's not an economy. I think it's a false choice. We can absolutely be driving AI. We can absolutely be driving innovation and maintain trust, maintain stability, maintain resiliency. I hear dialogue sometimes that puts all these things at odds. They absolutely not. That's why we're embracing digital assets. To me, it's part and parcel of capital markets infrastructure. It's part and parcel of assets in the world. We should be evolving, and we as a financial services industry should be maintaining trust of all the stakeholders, clients, and the regulators.
Thank you very much, Roman. Ren, on your end, a particular pain point that could go away just like that, what would it be?
Yeah, if I can have my wish, I truly wish, in a sense, that from the business side, right, working with data science, that truly embracing the AI and willing to take measured risk and allow us to learn quickly, fail fast, and learn faster, right, to move forward. Be able to, but at the same time, allow us to balance the risk and innovation. I think that will be the ideal environment to allow AI to become the good tool to help business to grow and achieve whatever goal is needed. I think that is in my view, it's a culture change, right? Involve many parties and many factors. So that would be my biggest wish. Hopefully will come true soon.
I am crossing fingers. Thank you very much, Ren. Chris, what would be your biggest pain point right now?
Yeah, I'm going to take a little bit of a different angle, less about pain point, more about actually creating new opportunities. If you think about where we are today, prior to COVID, I have this thing that I call the 3 eyes of the economy. The economy is immediate, it's interconnected, and it's being interrupted. And I think AI is a really good set of technologies, no different than DLT technologies, et cetera, that can allow you to create new capabilities and new sources of revenue and new sources of ways of doing business that's taking friction out of transacting. So if you just think about ordering your coffee on your phone and picking it up, or your groceries or whatever, and how friction continues to come out of day-to-day transactions, I think this is a great opportunity if you're driving a business-led strategy and driving to take friction out. You will actually achieve the things that your customers want and what consumers want, whether they be businesses or consumers. They really want an immediate and interconnected experience, and you don't want your business to be left behind by being interrupted by somebody else. So that's how I would answer the question.
Thank you very much, Chris. And I really like the way that you also reframe, AI as being one of many technologies, because DLT was another question that some people had on the chat, because you have to obviously, there's a lot of interaction between these different types of technologies. Rajesh, what would be your biggest pain point, or maybe, based on what you see, an interesting development that we should keep an eye on?
I would say they both are connected, Naim. The challenges and what I'm looking for in emerging technologies are connected. And I can give you a few examples. On the data side, I split into 3 parts. There's the question of data management, then the question of data engineering, and then you can do data science. On the question of data management, there's always the issue of access to data that needs to be very carefully governed, the MNPI and the PII stuff. There, the challenge might be alleviated by differential privacy. So that's the pain point, and that's the solution for it. As differential privacy comes up, you'll solve it. On the data engineering side, we have a very robust software development lifecycle for classical software. The analog does not exist for machine learning productionization. Rules are coming up. I anticipate that should get stabilized in a few years. Also, something as simple as cloud is quite standard outside the financial industry. Its use increasing, but it's not where I would want it to be. Inside the specific area of data science, where my team concentrates, there are a few research areas that we are very actively observing. One, a big challenge for us is in certain cases, we have big data. In certain cases, we actually have very tiny data. So the question of generating synthetic data using techniques like generative adversarial networks is of extreme importance to us. There have been some papers published in the last 3 years for something that we follow. Second is the promise of reinforcement learning is yet to be realized for us. We do have scenarios where our distributions change with time. It is now standard on the execution side. So when you give an order to a large broker, as they split it and execute it, people use reinforcement learning. Elsewhere, the use is still not there. It's still an art, not a science for us. 3, on the NLP side, which has been disrupted almost 3 times the last 10 years, there's a variety of things that can happen with NLP, right? From sentence completion to document search, to machine translation, to reading comprehension, to a chatbot. Those developments are of cardinal importance to us. The field has changed fast enough that we would want to see where it goes, if it's BERT or GPT-3. Last importance to us is in time series prediction. We do not see enough evidence of deep learning disrupting statistical learning still, even in 2021. That's something where I think is an active area of research that will make an impact for us in our business.
Great. Thank you so much, Rajesh. Michael, on your side, what would you, do you have a particular pain point that Magic Wand could take away?
Yeah, I think now I'd go back to what I started with, which is really, improving the customer experience. And the holy grail would be, truly getting the real-time customer 360 view of our customers, so we really understand our customers. And, we've been on a journey of collapsing what I like to call all the data villages, where we had data in various appliances, Teradata, Netezza, big data, Hortonworks, et cetera, and we've been consolidating all of that into the cloud, and I think, into a data lake, and I think we've done a good job of that. But the next step is really, how can I truly implement an MDM, and how can I truly implement real time through tools like Kafka? So we have bi-directional updates going from our systems of record into our data lake, and then truly leveraging that data to really personalize offers, to really make it easier for our customers to do business with us.
Thank you very much, Michael. I would really like to thank each of you, Ren, Chris, Rajesh, Michael, and Roman, for your insights during this panel. AI can be a buzzword, but it doesn't have to be. And I think that you were very generous in your explanations on how to make this real, and how to make this real so that it has the right results from a customer-centric standpoint. And so I would like to thank you and also the audience for asking the questions that we were able to weave into this discussion. And I certainly look forward to continuing this discussion with you, I hope also another time. Thank you all for your time.